To discuss the developments and their far-reaching consequences, we're joined by John Feghali, a researcher at the Mashriq Center. A very good day, Mr. John.
Good day. Thank you for having me.
It's our utmost pleasure, sir. Sir, thank you for being with us today. And the situation in Lebanon, of course, which is becoming an escalating issue, has taken a sharp turn for the worse. Could you start by giving us an overview of the latest developments in the conflict, especially the impact on the civilians, which is, of course, the target of everyone that's witnessing what's taking place in Lebanon?
Well, as you have mentioned before, it's obvious that the situation is getting out of hand. It's getting worse, especially now that Israel has expanded its bombings on more areas in Lebanon, not just Hezbollah controlled areas in the south and in the Bekaa. For instance, today they bombed a village in North Lebanon where internally displaced people have been killed. The toll is 8 deaths. Israel uses the argument that some refugees are members or part of Hezbollah. So this is a recurring theme that we will see later on, that some internally displaced people are Hezbollah members. Therefore, Israel will set them as targets, and thus they will bomb more areas in Lebanon, not just exclusively Shia areas, also Christian and Sunni and Druze areas as well.
Sir, I read that The Guardian mentioned that Michael Fakhri states that Israel has the ability to starve Lebanon like it has starved Palestinians in Gaza. How do you read this, sir, and what's your intake?
It is, of course, obvious what Israel is capable of. We have seen it.
So is it capable of starving Lebanon?
More than that, I think if that scenario were to happen, I don't think the Lebanese government, unfortunately, is capable of preventing that. And that's the main issue, actually. I mean, we can focus all day on Israel if Israel's capabilities of starving Lebanon, which an elect president to prevent such actions from the Israelis.
Israel's recent airstrikes have drawn global attention, sir, especially with reports of significant civilian casualties. How is this escalation affecting the people in southern Lebanon and the broader region?
Well, as I mentioned before, the strikes have started to go beyond South Lebanon and to expand more into, let's say, areas outside of Hezbollah's control, such as Mount Lebanon and the north. So the situation, of course, is escalating, especially with the most students not being able to attend school, internally displaced students, and especially with the winter coming. Of course, the government can't or couldn't anticipate this war, this aggression from Israel, and therefore people are just left to survive.
Sir, Hezbollah's response to these attacks has been swift and aggressive. How has their military strategy evolved in this conflict, and what does this mean for the balance of power on the ground?
The military strategy evolved ever since recently an Iranian general from the IRGC has been appointed as the de facto military commander, if you will, of Hezbollah. And on the ground, I don't think we're going to see any ceasefire soon, especially after that decision.
So you're not optimistic about a ceasefire, sir?
Not anytime soon.
So you're seeing that it's out of a border problem and it's becoming an escalating regional problem at this point?
It's proving to be so, yes. It has become a regional problem ever since Iran and Israel exchanged missiles.
Unfortunately, sir. John, given the scale of destruction and the rising humanitarian crisis, what role do you see for international actors in trying to de-escalate the situation, which is a very important role? Is there any hope for diplomatic intervention at this point?
The role for diplomatic intervention should serve one purpose. This only purpose is to implement the special United Nations Special Resolutions Councils for Lebanon under Chapter 7, 1559, the 1680, and the 1701. Anything outside implementing those three resolutions, unfortunately, will leave us in this loop. Even if the war ends tomorrow, let's say, we will remain in this loop for years to come. Every 10 or so years, the same scenario will happen again unless we implement the international resolutions for Lebanon.